You've probably met someone like this. He talks about life with a fire in his eyes, as if he carries a grand mission the world just isn't ready to understand. He has ideas that make you nod in agreement. Dreams so massive that you find yourself swept up in them. He lives in potential, speaks of the future as if it's already happened, and always has a reason for every failure. Sometimes it's the timing wasn't right. Sometimes it's people don't understand me. Sometimes it's I wasn't born to live an ordinary life. But year after year passes, and he's still there, stuck at the crossroads of dreams and delays, not moving forward, not falling back, just floating. Maybe it's your childhood best friend, maybe it's your younger brother, or maybe it's the man you love, and maybe it's your father, a man who never really grew up. Carl Jung called them Puer Aeternus, eternal boys in the bodies of grown men. On the outside, a fully developed adult, but on the inside, a child who never left the paradise of youth, a soul always preparing to live, but never truly starting. This video won't be gentle, but it's necessary if you've ever loved someone like this. If you've ever been someone like this, watch until the end, because this isn't just a wake-up call, it's a mirror. And sometimes, the first step to escape is daring to look at the truth. If you feel what we're about to share is essential for your journey of growth, please like this video and subscribe to the Social Psychology channel so you never miss an important lesson in psychology, philosophy, and the path to becoming your most authentic self. The Archetype of Puer Aeternus, the psychology of a child in a man's body. It's no coincidence that Carl Jung paid special attention to this archetype throughout his career in analytical psychology. Puer Aeternus, Latin for eternal boy, is one of the oldest psychological archetypes, appearing in every civilization, every mythology, and in millions of modern men. He is the man who carries the charm of eternal youth, an artistic soul, a boundless source of creative energy, a freedom that mesmerizes anyone who comes near. He lives like a child just released from school. No rules, no limits, no desire to take responsibility for anything that makes life feel too real. But behind that glowing aura lies a deep fear. He fears growing up, fears repetition, fears that life will become ordinary. He fears being trapped in roles like husband, father, employee, or leader, because each of those roles comes with responsibility. And responsibility is the one thing the boy within him is never ready to face. Jung observed this pattern in many of his patients. They moved from one job to another, from one relationship to the next, with a vague belief that the right thing would come someday. But that day never comes, because the Puer Aeternus doesn't live in the present. He lives in a land called soon, a dreamy future where everything is perfect, with no obligations, no rejection, no disillusionment. You've seen people like this. They can make you laugh. They can inspire you. They can pull you into midnight adventures without a plan. They live by instinct, by impulse, by the desire to soar. But when you need them, when life demands consistency, a promise, a real shoulder to lean on, they disappear. No goodbyes, no clear explanation, just, I don't think I'm ready for this. And you begin to understand. They're not cruel people. They don't mean to hurt anyone, but it's their avoidance, their poetic vagueness, That leaves the deepest wounds in others. And sometimes leaves cuts in themselves, because the Puer Aeternus doesn't live. He only dreams about life. He doesn't love. He dreams of love. He doesn't build. He imagines success in his mind, then lets it fade with the next sunrise. The problem isn't that he carries a child within him. We all do. The problem is when that child is the one driving. When it's the child who makes every decision, feels every emotion, leads every relationship, and the true man inside has never been born. So what do we do with this archetype? The answer is not to kill the child, but to rebirth it. Under the guidance of a mature mind, we'll explore that deeper in the next chapters. But first, you need to ask yourself, is the eternal boy living inside you or inside someone you love? If this chapter made you realize something about yourself or someone in your life, please like this video. Subscribe to the Social Psychology channel and leave an honest comment below. Thank you for staying with us this far. The story continues. False freedom, when flying high becomes a trap. There is one keyword that always follows the men shaped by the Puer Aeternus archetype: freedom. They crave it, worship it, are willing to sacrifice everything to protect it, even love, stability, or their own future. But what they call freedom is not real freedom. It is a false kind, an illusion wrapped in reasons that sound convincing. But beneath it all lies a fear that has never been named. They say, "I don't want to be tied down." But the truth is, they are afraid of being seen, afraid that if someone looks at their real self, not the charming, talented, or mysterious version, they will no longer be loved. They say, "I was born to be different. I don't fit a normal life." But the truth is, they fear being judged if they fail like everyone else. They'd rather live forever in the world of possibility than step into the real world and realize they're not as special as they believed. To protect themselves from these fears, they choose to run, hide in what they call freedom, hide in unfinished projects, non-committed relationships, promising conversations that never become reality. They fly high, but never land. They move, but never stay long enough to build something lasting. They shine like fireworks, then vanish into their own night. Carl Jung once wrote, "The Puer Aeternus floats between heaven and earth. He doesn't want to take root. He doesn't want to build. He doesn't want to be responsible for anything bound by time, and that is the deepest paradox. They want to fly, but refuse to learn how to grow wings. They want success, but fear discipline. They want deep love, but fear staying when the feelings stop being new. They want to live an inspired life, but fear going through the dull days that every real journey demands. True freedom does not come from avoiding commitment. True freedom is the ability to willingly choose what is worth committing to. It is when you say yes to a person, a job, a path, not because you are forced, but because you are mature enough to know that repetition doesn't kill freedom. It gives it shape and space to grow, but for the man shaped by the Puer, anything that requires discipline and repetition feels like a prison. He quits the moment the initial fire of inspiration fades. He quietly disappears, leaving behind unfinished stories and people who once believed in him. Have you ever been in a relationship with someone like this? Everything was intense in the beginning, passionate, fiery. He made you believe you were the most special person in the world. that the two of you were living a love story like no other. But then, when you started needing clarity, a clear future, even a small commitment, he changed, became distant, lost patience, then vanished like the wind. No trace, no clear goodbye, because to him, love with responsibility is no longer love. Creativity with discipline is no longer creativity. Living while facing fear is no longer living. That is the trap of false freedom, a place that looks like paradise, but is really a prison without walls, a place where you can be anyone, but end up being no one. To escape this trap, the first step is to name it. No more hiding behind just being true to myself. I'm waiting for the right time. Or I don't fit into the traditional way of living. The truth is, you are afraid. Afraid of the limits that adulthood brings. Afraid that choosing one thing means letting go of 1,000 others. But not choosing is still a choice to delay, to remain empty, to live halfway. And the real question is this: is freedom without direction truly freedom, or is it just a beautiful way of running away? If you feel that these words speak to something in your life, don't keep it to yourself. Please like the video. Subscribe to the Social Psychology channel to continue this journey of psychological and personal growth, and leave an honest comment, because sometimes writing your truth is the first step toward real change. When light turns into darkness, the hidden side of the man who never grows up. At first, the man who carries the Puer Aeternus archetype feels like a burst of light. He enters your life with an explosion of inspiration, vitality, and youthful energy that you thought you had lost long ago. He speaks like a poet, lives like a dreamer, and invites you into his world. A world with no boundaries, no rules, no burdens. You feel alive, truly alive. With him, anything feels possible. Every day is an adventure. Every idea sparkles. Every moment feels bathed in sunlight. But that light doesn't last forever. When life starts to demand steady presence, when a relationship needs something more than midnight whispers, when a job requires results instead of just inspiration, when time begins to question the true value of a man, that light begins to dim, and the darkness, which was always quietly waiting, begins to rise. The dark side of the Puer Aeternus does not arrive with a loud crash. It shows up in subtle cracks no one notices. Today he forgets a meeting. Tomorrow he breaks a promise because he's not ready. Then he stops answering calls. Then he disappears. Then he returns as if nothing ever happened, with an apologetic smile, a sweet excuse. And the cycle starts again. None of this is random. It's the direct consequence of running from inner darkness, because when a man refuses to face his own limitations, those limitations become an unconscious shadow that controls his entire life. Carl Jung once said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And for the Puer Aeternus, darkness is the part of life he always refuses to face. It is the fear of failure, the fear of being ordinary, the fear of being seen for who he truly is, and most of all, the fear of being forced to change. But the problem is not only with him. The self-destruction of the man who refuses to grow up never stays just with him. It spreads, it corrodes, it leaves those who love him doubtful, exhausted, and eventually questioning themselves. You might love someone like this, truly love him, and then find yourself floating with no clarity, unable to move forward, and unable to let go, because every time you try to walk away, he makes you remember how alive he once made you feel. And that is the trap, not one he set intentionally, but one built from his own fear. A loop between attraction and absence, between passion and withdrawal, between promises and delays, a relationship that never truly blooms, but never really dies either. The man shaped by the Puer archetype doesn't just hurt others, he destroys himself in silence. The more he avoids, the emptier he becomes. The more he runs, the more lost he gets. And eventually, he looks in the mirror and no longer recognizes the man staring back. He will blame life, blame his parents, blame the ones who loved him for not understanding him, blame society for being too rigid. But he will never blame himself, because doing so would mean growing up, and that is what he fears most. The truth must be spoken. No one can live forever as a child. The real world, though harsh, repetitive, and sometimes dull, is the only place where a real life can be built. True freedom is not the absence of commitment. It is the courage to choose commitment for something meaningful. And a real man is one who dares to carry what the boy inside him never could. If you've ever loved someone like this, or if you've ever seen yourself in this story, please like this video as a way of honoring your own truth. Subscribe to the Social Psychology channel to keep walking this path of uncovering and overcoming the shadows of the mind. And leave a comment below. Which part of this chapter made you pause and reflect the most? Thank you for listening all the way through. The story is far from over. The symbolic mother, the invisible root of emotional dependence. No Puer Aeternus ever appears out of nowhere. Behind every man who refuses to grow up, there is always a shadow, silent, gentle, full of love, but also full of control. It is the symbolic mother, not just a flesh and blood mother, but a psychological archetype, an emotional atmosphere the man has never truly escaped from. Carl Jung called this image the Great Mother. She can appear as the biological mother, or as a lover, a wife, or any female figure with a nurturing, overprotective presence. They don't do it out of malice. They love, truly love, but love without boundaries, without release. Eventually becomes a psychological chain. When a mother is always there to save her son from every fall, to cushion every failure, to protect him from all pain, to make every decision for him, that son never learns to stand on his own. He grows up with the feeling that he is always special, always forgiven, and that someone will always rescue him when life becomes too real. And then he carries that image into his adult relationships. He does not seek a partner. He seeks a replacement mother, a lover he can cry to, confide in about unfulfilled dreams, seek comfort from whenever he fails, but he rejects commitment, rejects expectations, refuses to be a support in return for the woman who loves him. He wants to be understood, but not challenged, wants to be accepted, but not transformed, wants to be loved completely, but refuses to become the man who can carry that love. And the woman, in her compassion and nurturing instinct, at first embraces him. She understands him. She is patient. She hopes that love will be enough to make him change, but over time, she grows exhausted and bitterly realizes she is not a lover. She is just another mother, wearing a dress, waiting for a child who refuses to grow up. Carl Jung warned, "The greatest tragedy is when the mother refuses to let the child be born psychologically," which means even though the boy's body matures, his mind, his emotions, his sense of self remain trapped in an invisible womb, where safety becomes a prison and love becomes the force holding back his evolution. The Puer Aeternus will not break free from this emotional dependency without going through a cut, a symbolic death, cutting away from comfort, cutting away from the psychological mother, whether she is the real mother or a lover playing that role, cutting away from the belief that someone will always be there to save him from life. And that cut is always painful. Many men choose to return, to stay, to remain the eternal child in the soft but suffocating arms of the symbolic mother. They don't realize, to be truly born, you must dare to step out of protection, out of the privilege of weakness, out of the habit of unconditional forgiveness. When that man cuts the emotional umbilical cord, when he stops expecting a woman to understand him and starts learning how to become someone worthy of love, when he begins to carry the weight of his own responsibility, that is when the real man is born. If you've ever found yourself playing the mother role in a relationship, or you've seen yourself as the man trapped in those safe but weakening arms, please like this video as an act of acknowledging your truth. Subscribe to the Social Psychology channel to continue this journey of exploring the hidden layers of male psychology and love, and leave a comment below. Which part of this chapter felt like it called out to you? Thank you for listening. We're about to go even deeper, into the place where growing up is no longer a choice, but a calling. The impact on others, love left behind. A man who refuses to grow up doesn't just sabotage his own life. He pulls those who love him into the abyss of uncertainty, of postponed hope, and of a love that is never fully returned. He can make you believe that you are special, that you are the final muse, the one woman who can change him. He can make you feel like the light, a safe haven for a wandering soul. But then, that love is never nurtured. It is abandoned. You wait for him to become the man you believe he can be. You give him time, patience, forgiveness. You believe that if you just love him enough, he will change. But day after day, month after month, he stays the same, dreaming, delaying, searching, while you slowly sink into emptiness, into the feeling of loving someone who is both there and not. You become the invisible companion in a relationship where only one person is truly present. You give advice, but he doesn't listen. You encourage him, but he doesn't act. You stay silent, but he never asks why. And then you begin to question yourself. Am I asking for too much? Am I not gentle enough? Am I trying to trap a free spirit? The Puer Aeternus doesn't just make you sad. He makes you doubt your own worth. And that is the deepest wound. Not the leaving, but the staying without presence. A quiet kind of pain. No fights. No betrayal. Just a long, stretching absence that feels like an endless void. He may say, "I love you," but that love never becomes action. Not because he lacks feeling, but because he lacks the maturity to hold on to something deep. He loves the feeling of love, not the responsibility that comes with it. He is enchanted by the beginning, the soft touches, the deep eyes, the dreamy whispers, But when the relationship asks for foundation, when you need certainty, when life calls for presence, he retreats, and you realize you are not loving a man. You are loving a child in a man's body, a child who demands love, but doesn't know how to love back, who receives forgiveness, but never learns to take responsibility, who seeks understanding, but never carries the weight of others. And what about family and friends? They see him, a smart, creative man with potential, and year after year, he still does nothing, jumping from job to project, always about to, getting ready, just waiting, but never truly starting. They grow tired of trusting and being let down. They feel heartbroken watching a bright soul fade under the weight of procrastination and laziness wrapped in pretty words like freedom and authenticity. Love doesn't disappear in an instant. It dies slowly, through constant absence, through broken promises, through conversations that go nowhere, through fading eyes waiting for something that never comes. The Puer Aeternus doesn't mean to hurt anyone, but his refusal to grow up makes him an invisible wound to the ones who love him most, a wound that doesn't bleed, but aches every day, a sadness that never explodes, but eats away at the soul from the inside. If you've ever loved someone who was never truly present, or if you've seen yourself hurting others through your own delays, please like this video as a moment of awakening. Subscribe to the Social Psychology channel to keep exploring the deepest layers of love and emotional growth. And leave a comment below. Have you ever been in a relationship like this? Have you ever loved someone who only dreamed, but never lived? Thank you for listening. There is still a long way to go, because growing up is not just a personal choice. It is a responsibility to those who truly love us. The transformation process, the journey through darkness. No one is born mature. No one wakes up one morning and suddenly possesses the calm, the responsibility, and the inner strength of a true man. Maturity does not come with time. It comes from pain. Carl Jung called this journey individuation, the process through which a person becomes who they truly are, not the version society expects, not the role imposed by parents, not the dreamy image imagined by the inner child, but your true self, raw, profound, whole, balanced between light and darkness. And like every process of birth, it is a spiritual labor. There is blood. There are tears. There is despair that feels impossible to survive. But there is also rebirth. The first step in this journey is the death of illusion. You must look directly at the dreams that never came true. You must accept that no one is coming to save you. There is no perfect timing, no ideal woman who will heal all your wounds, no great idea that will magically lead you to success overnight. All of these are just ways to delay truly living. When a man genuinely begins his transformation, he feels as if he's slowly dying. The old ego collapses. The familiar roles are stripped away. The praise, the admiration, the outer shine no longer soothe the restlessness inside. And that's when the darkness appears. There is no one left to blame, no one left to protect you, nowhere left to hide. You are left alone with yourself, with the parts you've avoided for years, the weakness, the laziness, the fear of being ordinary, the pain of no longer being seen as special. But in that darkness, a light begins to take shape. You learn how to persist, even when no one recognizes it. You learn how to take responsibility. Even when no one is watching, you learn to keep your word. Not for anyone else, but for your own dignity. You stop talking about what you'll do and begin quietly doing it, step by step. You stop chasing inspiration. Instead, you build discipline, bit by bit. And one day, you look back and realize you are no longer a boy. You still carry your creativity. You still keep your sense of wonder. You still cherish the child within you. But now, that child is no longer driving. He sits in the passenger seat. The man, the real one, is now in control. And the beautiful part is this. When you've walked through that darkness, you don't just transform yourself. You begin to heal the people around you. You become a man others can count on, a father every child needs, a husband every woman can lean on, a friend, a leader, a teacher, not perfect, but real. If you are in a phase of falling apart, if you feel like you are breaking down, don't panic. That might be the very first step of transformation. Like this video if you've ever faced your own darkness. Subscribe to the Social Psychology channel so you won't miss the important chapters ahead in this journey of becoming. And leave a comment below. Where are you right now in your path? Are you still running? Or have you begun to walk? Thank you for staying with me. In the next chapter, we will talk about the most important part. How to stay on the path when inspiration has faded, when hope is dim, and all that remains is the silence of commitment. Forgiveness, awareness, and action. The true journey of maturity is not just about understanding. It is about forgiveness, awareness, and action. First comes forgiveness, but not for others, for yourself. Forgive yourself for the times you delayed, for the promises you broke, for the opportunities you missed. Not to deny your mistakes, but to stop letting the past hold your future hostage. Then comes awareness. You must clearly see that many of the life philosophies you've been proud of, like I need freedom, or I'm just a deeply emotional person, are actually excuses made by the child within you. That child is afraid of being seen, afraid of being asked for more, afraid of becoming a real man. And you, the man who is now waking up, must look that child in the eyes and say, I see you, but from now on, am the one driving. Finally, there is action. This is where most men fail. They read, they understand, they speak beautifully, but they do nothing. In truth, maturity is made of actions that no one sees. It is keeping your word to yourself. It is choosing to stay when you want to run. It is getting up early even when the motivation is gone. Every small, consistent action is a brick that builds the man you are becoming. If you've made it this far, pause for a moment and ask yourself, have I forgiven myself yet? What am I still running from? And today, what will I do differently? Like this video if any part of it spoke to you. Subscribe to the Social Psychology channel to continue this journey. And leave a comment below. As a promise to yourself, thank you. Maturity begins in this very moment. Final call to action. Responsibility is the path to freedom. We grow up in a world that glorifies freedom. The freedom to leave, the freedom to choose, the freedom to walk away. But few ever tell you this. True freedom does not come from escaping all obligations. It comes from the moment you willingly carry something all the way through. You cannot be free if you don't have mastery over yourself. You cannot love deeply if you're not willing to commit. You cannot succeed if you are not ready to take full responsibility for every action, every choice, every failure. The man who never grows up will always live inside an illusion. The illusion that he's special, that it's not his time yet, that he was born to be different. But time waits for no one. And eventually, you will have to face the truth. No one is coming to save you but you. Carl Jung once said, "You will meet your shadow at every turn until you are brave enough to face it." And responsibility, the very thing you use to fear the most, is the key that leads you out of that shadow. You want freedom. Then start by taking responsibility for your own life. Every small task, every relationship, every promise. Because a real man does not wait for the right opportunity. He creates it. If this message made you pause and reflect, like this video, subscribe to the Social Psychology channel, and leave a comment below. What does true freedom mean to you, and what are you ready to take full ownership of? Starting now. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. Keep moving forward, not for anyone else, but because you are finally mature enough to never turn back.